I think, here we are. So, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us today for our webinar info session around fitting the MBA into your life. So I'm Robert, and I've got Mark with me today who is working with us.
Hello everyone.
And we've got Mark here specifically because he's also studying the MBA, and obviously you guys know I am also. So he's going to give us a bit of insight as to raising a family and fitting study in and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I think just to share what it looks like for me personally on what does my schedule look like, how I fit it in with a couple of kids and busy family, and share some experiences to get an insight.
Excellent, thank you. So we just here we are. So today we're going to cover how to fit an MBA into your life. So today's a bit of a sneak peek into the program. We're going to also have a bit of a Q&A session. So I didn't mention, I've got Christy with us today. So she's on chat. So hello, Christy. And we're also going to look at next steps as well. So a pretty relaxed session, just a bit of a conversation and just get a bit of insight into the program. So we're going to look at why study an MBA, what you're going to learn, what support is available, and in fact, are you eligible to study? So am I eligible to study? So we'll cover that as well.
I guess those are all key themes that questions that come regularly from students. So that's been picked for that reason.
Excellent. So we know, working with students, I'm actually a course advisor here at the school, and there's varied reasons why students will actually look at the program. So we can see here there's about personal achievement, salary increase, career change, etc. Also, as well, on your own business, there could be improving your existing management skills. So it's definitely around upskilling there. I think that's the key message.
Yeah, I think, I apologise, I'll be referring to my experiences a lot today, but yeah, I guess for me, mine was more around not having a formal qualification, 10 years in management, and for me, I was looking to more, I guess, a little bit of personal achievement to actually get a formal qualification because I didn't have one, but also improve my management skills and I guess my broader knowledge of business as well.
Yeah, excellent. So now you have had a fair bit of experience, which is great.
Yeah, so 10 years sort of being a people manager, finished year 12, moved straight into the workforce and sort of just progressed through there. When the opportunity come around, I thought I needed to finally get on with it and get a formal qualification.
Definitely good. So why study with AIB? So we know out in the marketplace there's just so much choice for providers. So I guess no doubt you guys are potentially going through a process at the moment of evaluating who you might want to study with. So I guess some of the reasons why you might look at AIB here is that certainly accredited, definitely and internationally recognised. We've got a real focus on the practicals. So Mark, you've had over 10 years of experience now. So tell us how that's actually been incorporated into your study.
Yeah, well, I was probably putting off for a while, as some people do. You think, I'm not sure if I can do it. Haven't studied. My last exam was in year 12. I'm now mid-30s. But for me, that's probably been, I guess, a real eye-opener. Because what you're actually doing is you're using your experience, I guess, things you've been exposed to. So the course is when we talk about when you say it's practical, you're actually learning some theory, but then you sort of need to explain and go, well, look, if I'm going to look at transformational leadership and you learn about that, if you're doing a forum post or assignment, you then talk about what that is, but then you give an example where you've seen that. So for me, that was really beneficial because I have seen many leaders, through your time. You've got your direct leader, you've got CEOs, those kind of leadership styles were everywhere. So for me, it was really drawing upon and just demonstrating I actually understand that concept, but then here it is, and this is why this person was a transformational leader, for example.
Excellent.
So that's the practical aspect, which for me was like, wow, okay, I actually am exposed to this and I see it every day. You're just putting that theory and then explaining that. So
And why I've raised that, so we look at focusing on career benefits.
Yep.
That real practical application, that real approach, I think that helps us every day in the workplace, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, dealing with stakeholders, language, opportunities.
I think for me as well, probably something which will is just the confidence as well. So it's not necessarily, you know, passing the subject. Obviously, that's great, or you know, waiting to get the piece of paper. It's actually the journey along the way, and you know, the language and the content and stuff that you're exposed to.
Yeah.
You do then have that broader perspective. So instead of just thinking about my role, you know, you then start to consider other departments and why they do the things they do.
Excellent.
And then, just the language and the different terms you learn, you can then talk the talk a bit as well, which gives you that confidence.
And perhaps a promotion, that's another benefent, but we'll get there maybe.
Absolutely.
Maybe there. So now we've also a global network, so we've got students globally. And obviously we were touching on there, obviously the benefits for Mark, but obviously the employees around him. And also another benefit to choosing AIB as an affordable investment. So we are one of the more affordable providers in the domestic space. So we do have students all over the globe studying with us, being on an online platform. But today we're going to be looking at most of the domestic market. Yeah,
I guess it's very relevant in your online class. So, you know, me personally, I know that attending my webinar or watching the recording, actually, we've got people from a couple of people in Canada, one in Papua New Guinea. So yeah, it is interesting also to hear when they share about their businesses and their processes and the things that they are exposed to. You get to learn a bit more of a broader perspective as well, not just necessarily in Australia.
We really are part of a global society now. We all seem so much closer.
Absolutely.
You know, with technology, which
that's what technology does.
Like we are now, so that's great. So we'll have a look at now, so what do you actually learn and how do you sort of go on the MBA journey? So there are 3 distinct steps to the program. So you might have noticed, and there's the information we've emailed already. So you've got your graduate certificate, which is the first 4 subjects. And Mark is just about to reach that point now. Are you just
in halfway through my 3rd subject at the moment.
So you're going to get there.
Not far off getting my, I guess, formal qualification. Yes. So higher than a bachelor degree, so I'm actually pretty stoked about that.
Yes, and Christy on chat, she's just about to finish her graduate certificate. So just, by the way, guys, if you have any questions there, we'll get to that. But Christy can also give you a bit of insight there as a student as well. So she's got. So you've got your graduate diploma, which is the next 4 subjects, and then you've got the final stage, which is the MBA itself. So that's the stage that I'm personally in.
Yeah.
So it's been quite the journey.
Subject 10?
Yes, I am. Yeah. So not counting down at all. Not at all. But I think the important thing, and why we highlight this as well, I think from a human perspective, it's just so good to have those milestones in there. So you really feel like you're achieving. And I know personally that you really grab hold of that.
Yeah. Look, I think with each stage, you know, 8 months, it does give you that focus to go, all right, I'm committing to, you know, just this 8 months of the year and I can be at this milestone.
Yeah.
So you can have up to 3 years to complete all 3, or, you know, up to 2 years if you go back to back like you've been doing.
Yeah. Not crazy. But
I think as well, just to touch on, for me personally, you know, if I look at just the subjects I've done, I'm only in, you know, halfway through my 3rd. And the information and the stuff that you learn and can apply immediately, like those conversations, like the concepts, the language, all of that stuff is fairly quick. Yeah. So me personally, I remember just finishing my 2nd subject. I felt like I'd nearly done an MBA just because of how I felt I'd changed with how I looked at things and all of that. So it is, you know, it's only a couple of subjects in, but I've noticed that, just the confidence. I think we don't sometimes look at that.
Yes.
You sort of look at the end goal. Okay, I'm going to get the parchment. I'm going to get the end game. But you do get benefits very quickly. So that's probably something, you know. So leadership, marketing, operations, HR, all things at the very start that everyone, you know, can get some good knowledge in.
Good. No, you're doing well. So the key takeout here is to achieve as you're moving along, and you've got something that's tangible that you've achieved and proud of.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the journey you go on. So we want to look at support. support is key. So quite often I'll talk to students around it's good to have flexibility, but as working adults, I think we need to be supported and feel connected, don't we?
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's a key question. Is it's online. So what does that look like? Is it you just send me some material and I'm all on my own, and then I just do my assignments and upload to a portal, and then
yes.
you know, does that how it works? I guess online study is traditionally started off in that way, but definitely we've moved and evolved from that.
Definitely. So yes, so you've got right now, most of you would be probably working with your course advisor, and they're great. They'll give you a bit of initial overview and that initial experience with AIB, but what happens, and we'll get to shortly what their student portal actually looks like. But I think you'd probably agree that as you're moving along the journey, I mean, you put in, but you've got a lot of support there from your online facilitator, your classmates, as you've mentioned.
Yeah, I think the good thing, it's really up to you. So, you know, if you want to have and use those resources, they're there. So you've got your OLF, you've got student relations, your course advisor, you know, all the other, I guess, support from online libraries and things like that. And your forum, if you want to really engage and network and get involved with, you know, the forum, and also like your live webinars, you can. But again, if you just want to do your own thing and just reach out to your OLF when you need it, you know, you can do that. So
we'll leave you alone.
Yeah, you can be left alone
to an extent.
Obviously,
just making sure you're doing your work,
your assessments and all of that. But again, it's as much as you need, or as little as you need. It's really up to you.
Definitely. So so we've got here your academic support. So importantly there, what I like to highlight with students as well is the fact that you actually do have your own teacher.
Yes.
So, you know, it's not like you've got hundreds of students or a big lecture hall, but an online space. So you actually are in your class part of a smaller group.
Yeah.
So you've got your own teacher.
Yep.
Your own little network.
That was probably the thing that I was, I guess, was a surprise, because it's literally like your teacher's there and you go to them when you've got a question, or if you want something clarified, or if you're unsure, you go to them. And I think the live webinars are a really good example of replicating like a classroom. You know, everyone's online like we are now, and your OLF is running the session, and you can clarify, ask questions. You know, that's where you hear other people's experiences in their workplace. So I know you're a big advocate of the live webinars. Yeah,
well, I think it's good, and there are times when you might be in a subject, and I think if we think back to when we were kids and we were at school, you might have been sitting in the class and you sometimes feel a little bit not confident, and you might not be sure of some of the concepts that you're working through. I'm sometimes a little bit slow off the mark. But the great thing is, and just like in school, the teacher used to always say, put your hand up if you've got a question, ask.
Yep.
The same thing will happen in your webinars. So it's great to have that collaboration, learn from each other.
Yep.
And I think that what the funny thing is generally speaking, if you're thinking something, somebody else is thinking it.
Yeah.
So rather than sitting at home and wondering and overthinking about things, which I don't do.
Yep.
Anyway, you've got a chance to sort of share that concern and bring it out. And you know,
and that's also the forum as well. So it's not necessarily just the live webinar. But the live webinars are really, really good, because literally in an hour's discussion, you're going to cover a couple of topics, and people learn it in different ways. So that visual video Zoom aspect is really good.
Excellent. So you do have, in the beginning of your subject, if you do decide to go on and commence the MBA, you've got your orientation. So I guess all of this, as well as the online supporting materials, like your journals, readings, the actual topics, etc., I think we just want to get a sense to students that you definitely are supported. Yeah. So it's just not like an online login. You've got a lot of resources and materials. Yeah.
And obviously we look at the learning portal, but it's definitely not a online, just a place to upload assignments.
Yeah.
It's definitely not that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's good. So this is the online student portal. This is just the front screen. So you can actually see how clean and nicely laid out it actually is. So we've got a bit of a snap. This isn't live, obviously it's a slide, but you can just see how you can navigate quite easily. So you've got your library. I can see my results quite easily. I can see announcements, this general discussion forums. Another big thing there actually too, I didn't mention before, you've got your community hubs. So a byproduct of the MBA actually is not just studying and getting a credit, upskilling and getting an award, is to build your network.
Yeah.
I don't leverage this enough myself, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, every subject, you're going to have communities of students.
Yep. Absolutely. I think the main thing is it's there. If that's important to you, you can do that. Again, if you're not into networking and you don't need to, you don't have to. It's, you know, I think that's really good. It's a choice, whatever suits your circumstance.
Yeah.
But absolutely, you notice the people on the webinars and the forums are really, they're really engaged into that.
Yes.
They're doing it all the time. You can just see when you're in your class and who's posting what, and you know, even you see some Zoom groups or Skype groups form, study groups. Like, yeah,
it's pretty busy.
Yeah, it is,
but in a good busy.
Absolutely.
So, the key tag out of here, guys, is the fact that it is very cleanly laid out. Everything's very accessible. You know, I think intuitive is the right word, I think, when we use a student portal. So you don't have to be Einstein to start studying online.
Yeah.
So we want to touch on, are you potentially eligible? So we're all a bit different in terms of our background and what we've studied. So Mark, as he's already mentioned, so he had a very strong leadership background. Yeah. And that you were obviously better to leverage that into the course.
Yeah, so that was my entry. So having 3 years of verifiable management experience, to having 5 years full-time experience all up, but 3 years being verified through referees. So yeah, that's how I entered as well.
And personally, so I actually came in from the advanced diploma prior. So I've been studying that for 3 years non-stop.
Yep.
It's been great.
So you went from, advanced diploma into your MBA.
I'm still alive. So it's possible you can work and study, etc. And obviously, if you've got a bachelor degree, of course, with work experience, that's it can be used for eligibility as well. So they're your three main areas that we look at.
I think with the bachelor as well, though, it doesn't have to be in commerce or business. It can be any other field.
Important.
And it can be, it was 30 years ago, you know. It's not necessarily, it has to be in the last 10 years or anything like that. If you've studied at a level before, and we've got your transcript and parchment, you're good to go.
And the same with the advanced diploma as well. It doesn't have to be in a business discipline either. That's a good point.
Yeah. So, and also just probably on the management side of things as well. So if we look at the kind of experience, you know, we are looking for people management, you know, if you run projects or financial budget responsibilities, managing staff, business ownership as well, actually sits under management. So that's probably one that sometimes can be overlooked. So if you do run your own business in a full-time capacity and that's your day-to-day role, that would also be considered as management.
Good, excellent. So this is what we're really here for today, is fitting it into your life. So I would say, I mean, working with students over the years, I think even more so than fees, I think the biggest anxiety around study is, how on earth am I going to do this?
Yeah. Yep.
It's quite scary, the unknown.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's that, and for me it was also, can I do this? You know, that fear of failure. So I probably did lean a little bit to, I can't fit it in, but probably one of the main reasons was I was a little bit unsure. And then, I think that links back to the practical aspect and the support and how it's all structured. And now I'm in there, I'm feeling quite confident.
Yes.
However, though, the fitting part into your life is really key. Absolutely, it's important. We'll touch on that. I guess give examples of what our days, weeks, subjects, assessments look like.
Definitely. So what we've done, so I'm going to get Mark in a moment to talk about his experience in having a family. So this is why Mark's specifically in here today with us, because, you know, there is that feedback too. I've got children, how on earth am I going to do with this? Yeah. But what I've done is I've put together a bit of a slide and just given a bit of a rough idea of how I tend to do things each week. Yep. So you can see I'll do a little bit of reading in the afternoon on Sunday, because what we're looking for is 15 to 20 hours per week. And for most people, they're like, well, what does that look like? What is 15 to 20 hours per week? What's the reality? And sort of what we do. Now you can see I do a little bit on Sunday. I tend to
So if I just go back with Sunday, so what do you do? Because I think that's also important, is 15 to 20 hours isn't just, I've got this big textbook and I've just got to sit and read and write notes 20 hours a week. It's a lot of different activities, which makes it a lot more manageable and interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I might do a few hours of reading on the Sunday. Typically speaking, I mean, and it really does depend on the week. So just to put things into context here for everybody. So I'm currently in project management. I had an assignment that was due last night. I thought I was pretty good. I'd handed it on Wednesday. Brownie points. Anyhow, so this week for me looked like I probably did 5-7 hours between Monday to Wednesday. And that was purposely because I had the assignment due.
So when you've got a deadline and an assessment, obviously, depending if you can be one of those people that do things early and stick with a real consistent routine, you might get that in, but we're all human and things come up. So
exactly. I mean, this is not rigid. This is. But typically, you can see here. So I'm a bit of a madman. So Thursday night I go off to school. So some of you might not know, but I'm actually finishing my high school certificate. Which is a bit unique. That's my final project. Why would I do that? But anyhow, Friday, typically I'll leave it alone. I mean, unless, actually, well, the funny thing is, so when I leave here tonight, I'm going to do a quiz. So I've said to myself, I'm going to finish here at 3:30. I'm going to go home and I'm going to do 2 hours because I'm going to finish a bit earlier today. But then tonight, done. And then this weekend I'll do a little bit more around just reading. So it does vary. So this is not hard and fast. So I don't you don't stick to sort of rigid timetable, do you? It's just a bit of a guide.
I think it's up to the individual. You know, what kind of person are you? Are you really organised? And there's some people very organised, will, you know, really stick to a schedule that they have to the minute, and that works for them. Other people, you know, will probably leave things a little bit later. You know, I guess they're not cramming, but, you know, I'm a little bit the same. If we've got an assessment or when I've got my exam, I'll touch on that. My workload will increase, you know, like leading up to that for sure. But maybe I'll just paint a picture on how I break my study up.
Yes, please.
So I look to I'm with the family, obviously I try not to let study impact the family life.
Two kids,
yes. A 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. So yeah, I try not to let it impact that. So I guess what I mean by that is, you know, I don't want to be doing study necessarily between the hours of, 6 and 8, because that's obviously, you know, dinner time, getting ready for school, getting the kids bathed and organised and getting them to bed. And then also I want to spend a little bit of time with them after work. So yeah, I'll predominantly look to do my study. I'll like to have an hour to have a bit of a break. So get into bed or, you know, finish up around 8, and then between 8 and 9, maybe watch TV if there's something on.
Game of Thrones
used to be on Monday.
Yes.
You know, sort of house rules at the moment, you know, but yeah, I like to just have that hour just to switch off, because you do need that time just to switch off and not, you know, using your brain. But then what I normally do is look to between 9 and 10:30, and that's when I'm just in the portal. So the portal really it gives you the bite-sized content to focus on. So it might be, you know, read this 7-page Harvard Business Review article that's related to the topic, and then it might have a little knowledge check where you go into the portal and, you know, answer 5 questions. So that's where I'll spend some time in the portal. Then what I try and do as well in the morning, so I drive into work.
Yes,
and,
I was going to say,
listen to it. So with the ebooks, I've got the Vital Source app on my phone, and it's basically like a podcast. So when I'm driving into work and it says, okay, I need to read chapter 1 for, you know, my topic, I'll literally just be listening to my textbook. It's played like a podcast. So that's where I gain, you know, sort of 40 minutes in the morning. And that's how I try and keep on top of my, I guess, textbook reading. And then in the evening is when I look to spend some time in the portal. And that's good because it reinforces. So what I listen to in the morning, then that content is, in the portal, and it just reinforces that as well. And it's good to have that you might have a video on a subject matter, the little quizzes. So it is quite multimedia. It's not just cut and dry text.
That's right.
So that's generally, and I'll try and do that, Monday to Thursday, sort of with that routine. Again, something might come up that prevents me from, doing study on an evening, and then I'll look to catch that up. So, I might slot in, it varies. Like I might get up early, because I get up early normally. I might just go to my computer and do an hour's worth of study because it's 6 o'clock in the morning and I've got that extra hour. So I try and work on 2 hours per day as a bit of a guide. And then, if I'm a little bit short, I'll try to make that up. But as I said, when it's an assessment is due, I might be doing maybe 3 or 4.
A bit busier.
Maybe I'll do 3 or 4 hours the day the assignment's due and stuff like that. Just some final checks and stuff.
Yeah, good. And it really is, you can chunk it right down. I mean, there's been plenty of times here in the office I'll run off to a room for an hour and that's my break.
Yeah.
So if you're doing 2 hours a day, it might be, then you're done. So you can still go home and have a normal night. You don't have to kill yourself in the process.
Yeah, I think it's trying to work smarter, not necessarily harder. Obviously we need to do the work, but it's where can you save some time? And it's funny enough, you hit 15 to 20 hours, you think, how am I going to fit that in? But you realise, dropping some extra Netflix or some binging, you do realise if you limit yourself to just an hour show, but you watch an hour show that you actually really like, rather than just watching whatever's on TV, you do realise how much time you do get back. Because I did take a break after doing 2 subjects, and I found, wow, I've got all this extra time. Like it is quite amazing how that sort of happens after a bit. So
it's good that you went back in.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a break. Also finished all together. You're going to be like, oh my God.
Later this year.
Yeah.
But also though, a key component of these hours too, it's not actually all about reading. And I mean, I don't tend to audio, but that's great. It works for Mark.
Yeah.
I tend to do a little bit more note taking. I sort of have found my quiet study space in the dining room of all places.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this very quickly around a portion of your study. When we say 15 to 20 hours a week, I mean, every day we're having some sort of banter about something.
Yeah.
So there's a reflection and talking.
Absolutely. I think it's that practical reflection. So, we have some really good chats where we're not even on the same topic. We're, miles apart, but it'd just be like, I'm learning about, so in HR at the moment, in strategic HR, we're looking at my assignments around the global labour market.
Yes.
And I guess the impact if you're a CEO or a senior chief HR manager, and you're looking to work out how to get the right people in, as in the amount of people you need, but also to keep them, retain them, keep them engaged, pay them a certain amount of salary. But then also, what's the impact at the moment on, robotics? What's that going to be in the future? AI, automation.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff is, really interesting. So that sort of, but we'll have a chat about that. So we'll come in and go, we're looking at mega trends.
Yes.
What's a mega trend? A mega trend is just as something as simple as it's a trend that can't be stopped. So, the aging population, for example, is a trend that we can't stop. But then we'll just have a little bit of a chat about that, and we'll talk about, we've seen this here or there, or and just talk and reflect. And then it's just those little chats. And you see people doing it in the forum all the time as well.
Yes.
That, they're engaging and they're talking, or even on the webinar. That's where they're also having a chat around there. But that is actually part of your study, because that just helps it sink in.
I wanted you to say that. Because it's true, isn't it? It's part of those hours.
Absolutely.
So we do half an hour. We don't even notice.
No.
It's just part of the day.
It's just, definitely. And that might even be, you might share that with your partner. Like I tell my wife, I'm learning this, and what do you think about this?
So that's part of your hours. So when we talk about 15 to 20 hours a week, we would consider that.
Yeah.
Because the topics are probably only 4 to 5 hours each.
Yep.
And we only do 1 or 2 topics a week. So the rest of that. So I just want to paint a bit of a picture. So if we might only be 10 hours a week, might not be in the student portal itself.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, we still consider this to be a part of your study journey.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's definitely not all textbook reading or anything like that. You even include, watching the hour recording for your webinar or watching it live.
Yes.
That's also included. So yeah, it's a variety of different parts, but that's how we learn, right? We, learn in all different ways to help sink it in. And yeah, I guess for me, and you mentioned yourself, those chats really consolidate that. Or just trying to explain to someone what you've learned, your partner or friends and stuff like that. Because that shows you've retained and you've learned something, and then you're sharing.
And that actually would really go back to support, doesn't it? So, and your wife, she's been great. So she's really, you're feeling engaged and...
Yeah, so it's good you mentioned that. Because, look, it isn't... Again, I try to minimise that I do my study not within key sort of family time, but look, that's not always possible. If there is, sometimes there is a webinar I do want to attend to, such as the assessment webinar, which is really key. I'll try and make sure I go to those live ones. And that might be at 7:30, but that might happen once or twice in the 8 weeks. Yes. So, on the Tuesday night, we had a chat at the start of the week and she goes, oh, look, you've got your webinar. I'll do everything tonight. I'll do the nighttime routine, bath the kids, dress and do tea, do everything, and you can do your study. So it is important that, you do have that support and, it's sort of discussed in advance. Not that you always need to set up a real rigid structure like that, but it is important to have that there.
Yeah, so you can see, so we had this bit of a matrix, I guess, about how to fit it in, but this is not rigid. This is a bit of an idea.
Yeah.
I think I've got study there tomorrow for Saturday, but I already know in my mind I'm going to have tomorrow off, and I'll do some reading on Sunday. So it's not hard and fast. It's just what's happening each week.
Adult learning environment. Your OLF doesn't check in on you each day or every second day and say, what are you up to? No. You should be up to topic 2 and page 60 in the textbook. What's going on if you're not? It's, you're given what you need to do and then you go and do it. And if you need to make some up, you make some up. If you're ahead, you're ahead. Don't go too far ahead.
Yeah. And also too, what happens is, and I haven't got a visual around this, but we actually have a bit of a plan that we work to each subject. So we have a subject planner.
Yeah. Well, in your portal, it's laid out for you. It's sort of week 1, 7 hours, read chapter 1, or it might be read chapter 1, pages 40 to 65.
Yeah.
And then you've got your learning portal there. So you actually know in advance, it's really easy. Follow the bouncing ball.
Yes, and I do talk about that with students, follow the bouncing ball. So just follow it. We set a framework in place, and it's really just following the path that we will sort of illuminate it for you. But I also like to touch on, so if you're, for instance, let's say your subject plan was to do readings for topics 4 and 5 in that week.
Yep.
Now I don't know about you, might be similar, but if I've done really well and it's gotten to Saturday afternoon and I've done my reading and my topics for that week, laptop closed.
Yeah.
so some people, are perhaps a little bit more studious, but I'm a firm believer in, if I've done what I've set, I think setting goals is important and absolutely planning your time, but I think it's also balancing time for yourself. So if you're on track, laptop goes away.
Yep.
I'm going to go have a life.
Absolutely.
So
definitely. I agree.
Yeah. So, and I think it's interesting because people sometimes have a perception going into study that their life's over, and they're just,
it's really about being creative with your time. Where can you gain that extra hour here and then? Once you build a routine, that's the key thing. That's probably the hardest part, is establishing the routine. It takes, I'd say a lot of form takes 21 days to make a skill a habit. So you sort of, need to start on early with a bit of a routine and get used to when you're going to put things in. And after a while, you start to do it automatically without thinking.
You absolutely do. So that's. I hope that gives a bit of insight as to fitting the study into your life. So we've actually probably gone a bit ahead here. Oh, Right, we had a bit of a slide deck around what we've just talked about.
So we'll just recap what we've gone over.
Yes. So,
So right balance, like you mentioned.
And you balance with your children and family, which is
absolutely.
Actually, this is an interesting point. So any sacrifices, because I mean, we will acknowledge that the MBA is not, a walk in the park.
No.
So there will be some. You actually mentioned before some of Netflix.
Yeah, I guess TV is definitely one. Yeah, that's probably as well. Not too many social events. Not like I've got a social event every single weekend, but it's just planning around it.
You've had less gym time.
Yes, less gym time. Well,
I've had less gym time.
Yeah, true. But then I've just tried to make sure. I just make sure I schedule my lunch break now to try and go to the gym, because that's a possibility for me. So I try and, not that I always go, but that's where I try and fit that time. And as where before I would be more after work or on the weekends. So that's probably something I've had to sacrifice, to be honest. You're right.
And it's an interesting, so we say, but there's a point on there about any regrets. And I think you highlighted well before your, I guess, journey starting the program and having a leadership background, but now you're feeling not engaged, but I guess some of those light bulb moments you've had. So I guess it's not a regret, not thinking you haven't regretted it.
No. So yeah, I guess putting in that time, I haven't sort of any regrets like, oh, this is taking up too much of my life, I'm missing out on stuff, because what I'm gaining is skills and confidence I didn't previously have. So I don't look at it as like this is a negative and wasting my time. Definitely not at all. Thinking, well, it's sometimes you get like, oh, I've got to get this, got this deadline, I've got to get it done, and you're like, oh, but the return that comes out of that, I think, and the journey and the resilience and the, all those soft skills are like just amazing. So, and then you get feedback from your team members and like, oh, I can really notice since you've been starting your language and your confidence and stuff that you don't really know is happening. They're like, yeah, we can tell that's happened a lot. So yeah, definitely no regrets on some of those sacrifices.
And here we are, planning and resilience.
Anyone thought we've planned this?
But actually, you touched on a really good point there, Mark, as I planning and resilience, because Mark's actually my manager here at work. So, and I've said to you often, and one of the byproducts I feel about being in this late stage of the MBA, I've actually noticed my resilience has really lifted. Even though we do a lot more work, I think we sort of seem to manage it better.
Yeah,
just sort of manage the workload a bit better.
Absolutely, I think because you know what is expected and you know what you need to get done. So it does take that little bit of I guess a few subjects to know. Okay, I've done this before. This is what I need to do. I guess just that expectation because you've experienced it. So I think that's really key. But just touching on resilience, and I mentioned this story before. I remember my very first assignment in leadership, and
bring that up.
Very interesting. So I remember it was a public holiday. I think it was Adelaide Cup or something. Beginning, I think it was Australia Day actually. Anyway, I had a public holiday, had a 1,500 word assignment, my first one, and I was like, well, yeah, I've got like a public holiday and the weekend. That's plenty of time. And
so he thought.
I thought. It was my first one. That's probably the main thing. I think sometimes that is enough time once you're experienced, but it being the first one, I probably should allow myself more time. And I remember just the first 2-3 hours sitting at my table at home, studying, and I put down about 200 words, and I just had writer's block. I was then starting to doubt myself. Can I do this? And it was one of those sort of, what way do you go? Do you sort of spit the dummy and go, nah, this is all too hard. I can't do it. And I felt like I was nearly there. But then I remember my wife's like, just go for a walk, go do something. And I think I went for a run, just went for a jog, cleared my head, and I came back and then sat down and then started getting into it, and then got some momentum, some confidence, and then started flowing. But yeah, that I guess was a lesson, to don't give up, don't just chuck in the towel. It is tough. You haven't done this before. If you haven't challenged yourself recently, you probably haven't experienced that for a while.
No.
You know, you could be a manager and progressed all the way through your career and things have just been going, and then you are sort of confronted with this study of like, oh no, can I do this? And you sort of doubt yourself. But definitely took a lot of that and definitely built some resilience from that. So if I roll around again and I encounter that situation, I'll sort of know that, okay, have a break or do this or do that. It will happen and then, yeah. So that was, yeah, a good lesson learned, I think.
And I think it's important to note that, you know, overcoming challenges, over time you do learn. It's all part of that learning experience.
Yeah.
Every step of the way, you're always learning something new and overcoming things.
I think it's the journey, really.
It is a journey.
Sometimes we get very caught up on the piece of paper or the result, but it's actually the journey that you go through. That is, because at the end of the day, that improves you and your confidence in your language and everything. So not necessarily the bit of paper at the end. You're proud of the piece of paper, but it's actually going on the journey and experiencing it.
Definitely. And Mark's a bit modest, but he got a distinction for marketing.
Oh.
I've never got a distinction once. I'm a credit average. Maybe I should be doing a few more hours, but Mark's got a distinction.
Yes.
So
practical stuff was good to write about. So
experience. So now fitting in full-time work. So obviously we're both working full-time.
Yep.
So we've obviously touched on that practical element and really how that's important to reflect on your experience. And I think it's really important for students to have perhaps support from their employers. So hopefully that's something worth gaining if you can.
Yeah, I think everyone has different situations where that is definitely an option, which is great. So I think if it is an option, use it.
Maybe to get some days off potentially.
Well, it's more just making, you know, I know that when I have my exams, I personally were booking in annual leave days. And I know I don't need to do that, but, you know, but work's been supportive around booking those times off for me when I give them the notice. So it might be just something as little as that, or it might be, oh, look, can I move my shift time to maybe do some study after work? Or, yeah, if you can have something like that, definitely use it. It's only going to help. But again, it's not mandatory that you need to have that to be successful. A lot of people that can just fit it in without that. So
exactly. And finally, so here, there's definitely your support networks. Now, it's interesting, we talk about motivators there and pillars of support. I've actually always been a big believer, and you've probably noticed leading me over the years, very much into goal setting. Yeah. So having a goal, that's a motivator. I've always found that motivating. So, absolutely. And having people around you that can, I guess, help facilitate that is a good thing. Yeah.
Well, I think that's if I look, since you started with the advanced diploma and then the GCM and then the graduate diploma, and now you're on that last stage for MBA, you've had those, and also you're booking your holiday, so it's your reward. So I think that's important because that's you've set out a goal and then you'll work towards to achieve that, but then after that you've got that reward. Yes. I think that's been really good because that gives you that motivation to keep going.
Just hanging on.
Going to the US and planning that. I think that's important though.
It is. It is, absolutely. So I think for all of us out there, we've all got little goals and milestones and things that we want to achieve. So I think setting that goal, focus on it, can actually help get you through.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important, I think, to do so.
Now, so come to the Q&A session with Christy. Christy's probably doing a great job on the chat. So if you do have any questions, please type away. And Christy is there. And I think, what's the time? We've got a little bit of time still, which is good. So if you have any questions,
I think send them through to Christy and she'll be able to assist as well.
Robert and Mark, I've got a question here just regarding if you don't have a workplace, what kind of examples can you use in your, with the practical application for your subjects?
Yes.
What kind of examples in that could you be drawing from instead?
Good question there. So, and I'm sure you'll agree, and I'll get your feedback as well. But what you will find is when we talked about the webinars before and having people in your class that are contributing, their experience, leveraging. Your online facilitator, it does actually come from industry. So they actually can give you their insight.
I think that ebook as well. So that's probably one part I really enjoy when listening. The ebooks will give you the real life examples of companies. So, in marketing, they might be talking about Coca-Cola's strategy and what they use for their brand, and, what they did when they launched no sugar Coke, and, what the response was. And, so there are examples within your textbook, or lots of examples actually, where they'll talk about other companies in detail. But it could also be a previous job as well.
Sure.
Doesn't need to be your current one. You can draw back to, well, I worked in, 7, 8 years ago, I worked for this company here, and, I saw this type of leadership, or I saw this marketing strategy, or this operations, or this HR. So I think that's a good thing with business. You don't have to be a HR manager. You don't have to be a marketing manager. You just need to be familiar with what, the organisation you worked at, or it could be your partner. It's really just understanding of being critical. So maybe we'll touch on that, because that's really the key skill, right?
Yes.
Is being critical. So what you'll learn is, I remember even just after marketing, your, I guess, way of thinking changes. So when I'm driving to work and I'm seeing like billboards and stuff, instead of just looking at it, I look at it and I go, oh, okay, wonder what their value proposition is they're trying to pitch there. What's their key message? Wonder what colours they've used. I can see.
As long as they're not talking to you, that's the main thing.
Yeah, no, they're not talking to you. But that's the kind of things that,
True.
So you see it every day with what's going on. So yeah, and I guess you then are trying to understand maybe where they were coming from, because you've learned a bit more of the process involved. And maybe you can explain a bit more about being critical. It's probably just not as simple as that, but
no,
that's where that's where your thinking goes to.
And even what you've observed. So sure, you might not talk about perhaps your existing workplace, but certainly you could probably reflect case studies. But that goes back to observation. So I know here, I don't actually work in many of these business functions around the school, because we're a business just like any other.
Yeah.
But I will pay attention to what they're doing and really try and put my mind as to what they're potentially thinking. Yeah. And that goes back to that critical assessment of the situation.
Yeah. So you're trying to, I guess, go through in your mind, like, what was this the process that they've taken? And it's a range of things. So again, you don't need to be in the role, but it's just being familiar. And again, if you can do a complete case study on another organisation. We do have IBIS World and some of the online libraries. So Marketline. So IBIS World's one I've used. You can actually look up different companies, public companies. You gain all kinds of P&L and their forecasting and their results. And we had a assignment, was it on Qantas?
Governance.
So maybe talk about that one. And then also, was it Adelaide Brighton Cement?
That was finance.
You used for finance. So you didn't know those two companies, but you used the resources for your assignment.
Yes. So, I'm not a CFO. I've never worked on a board in my life. Maybe one day. We'll see what happens. So what I did was the assignment we had initially for governance was talking about independent representation on the board. So I'm like, okay, so you have to initially think about, okay, well, where am I going to go with this? How am I going to look at writing on? So you're right. So you've got your annual reports that all publicly listed companies will actually release. So I did my first assignment in governance on Qantas. So all publicly available. So that coupled with the text messages, textbook, ebook, the webinars that we're having with the teacher. I sort of brought it all together. If that makes sense. So I haven't physically sat on a board before. No,
but I guess looking at that, you would look at the public reports, Qantas, who they have on their board, and it would be their, this is their background and who they are. And then you learn the theory on what an ideal board is, that you need to have a certain digit of independent representation on that. And then you've looked at that and gone, okay, well, I can see that's a pretty good board because we've got this person, and this person, and they're from here, here, and here, which is totally, separate.
So they turned their business around, which is great. So that was the key around the importance of having independent representation.
So practicality isn't just in your workplace that you need to be
it can be external.
But once you learn the theory, you can then observe or review all different businesses and stuff and get an idea. What about the Adelaide Brighton one? Because that was for your finance.
Yes, and believe me, I don't have and that's probably one of the hoodoo subjects that people always get frightened going into, including myself. So the mandate there was obviously to pick an Australian company.
Yep.
So I'm like the same process in my mind. Who am I going to choose?
Yep.
I came across Adelaide Brighton Cement, which are based here in Adelaide as well.
Yep.
And that summit there was based around their financials and performance, which was once again found in their statement, their annual report.
Yep.
And I did a bit of a comparison to Boral. And found some very interesting. And what was interesting is I learned how to, through finance, how to look at the data and give me a bit of an idea. Okay, well, how was this company really tracking? Which is quite fascinating.
Yeah.
But what I did, that part of the process of not only what I discovered after selecting them and going through the reports, we know here in Adelaide at the moment, in terms of infrastructure, they're building a main north-south freeway.
Yeah,
so we're finally getting big freeways here in Adelaide. It's been a few years. Anyhow, so what I found interesting, and what I did write a part of, and I made the link between what I've seen in the media and us living in Adelaide and knowing a lot of the construction that's going on.
Yeah.
That I could see that, hang on a sec, Adelaide Brighton have actually been selected by the government as a preferred supplier. They've tendered and they've won contracts.
Yep.
So I could make the connection between this infrastructure is being built.
Yep.
This has actually had an impact on their financials for the better.
Yeah.
And so I don't work for Adelaide Brighton. I'm not a CFO.
No.
I've just taken notice of what I've seen in the media.
Yep.
A bit of general knowledge and the reports that were publicly available.
Yep.
And made the connection with the theory.
Yep. Absolutely. And again, I think that's a great example, and that's really what you learn, is that practical aspect. Is if you were a CEO or a CFO and you're in that position
one day,
and and it's not just the strategy, it's the strategy, right? It's not it's very high level and in those senior roles. So that's where it does, being an MBA, it does equip you to be a CEO, CFO, those kind of roles, because you're looking at real life examples and the strategy behind that. So yeah, I think those two are great examples. So I hope that answers your question in a long-winded way.
Definitely. And I've actually just noticed there's a bit about starting your own business. The question, Christy.
Yeah, so I guess that surrounds the question of when's the best time to start the MBA. Whether it's if you're starting up a business, do you want to do it at the same time as starting up a business, and so that you can apply what you're learning, or you're better off waiting and getting settled before sort of tackling the MBA?
Yeah, I think I do like my little business ideas and stuff like that. I've definitely found when that's sort of a little bit of a hobby I like to dabble in, but I definitely found while I was studying that actually helped me a lot. So for example, I got a family friend who's put together a bit of a product, or that he's patented as a bit of an idea, sort of like a Shark Tank thing. And it's a really good idea. And because I was studying marketing management, I actually learned in the 8 weeks, how to put together a marketing plan from start to finish. Now, it wasn't just a marketing plan that is, okay, what kind of things are we going to promote through Facebook, Google, or put some ads or radio? Like, that was really the end part. The subject was actually going through, what market do I actually pick to compete in? What's going to be my point of difference as a product? How big is that market? How would I price that product? And what kind of strategy would I use? And then basically go from there. So it was funny because that come about literally while I was doing marketing, and I was like, yeah, I can help you out. I can give you some advice and this and that. But if I had, waited to maybe finishing the MBA, I would have had that conversation or been able to help out or give them a bit of a hand. Who was a friend of mine. So I think absolutely, if you can manage, if your time schedule allows you to, and you can fit it in, I think the return on investment is very, very fast. So you don't need to wait to get something out of it. You can literally learn a topic in a week, and then if you need to apply that in any way, you're good to go.
Good. Excellent. You are very entrepreneurial. Lots of ideas.
Oh, lots of ideas. So I'm doing the MBA so I can go about it in the right way.
But yes, so I just wanted to see, what's the time now? So I just want to make sure we've got a little bit more time for Q&A. So I can't see if there's anything else that we've got here. I want to just perhaps see if everybody is happy with that information there. Oh, I think we've got a question of how much does it cost. So I think maybe you can address that.
Yeah.
So the MBA, so we're obviously looking at domestic. So at the moment, it's $2,725 per unit. That's current. I think it's going to go up a smidgen next year, but only by a tiny little bit. So what students do is actually really only paying for what you're studying, generally speaking. So so per unit it's $2,725. So if we look at round figures, this is how I would explain it to my students on the phone.
Yeah.
If we go back to that stage by stage approach, so if you've got 4 subjects, it's about 11 grand for 4 subjects there. So obviously if you multiply that by 3, you're probably looking at around 34,000 roughly over the time.
So as well, I guess, just to put in comparisons, we mentioned at the start of the webinar as being one of the more affordable options. So I think the average MBA now is around about 60,000. So yeah, with the 60 MBA providers in the country, that's sort of the average. So where we sit, we're more in that sort of affordable bracket, and that's a big value from AIB as well. We want to make study affordable.
That's exactly right. So,
yeah. And we can also use that for Australian citizens. If you are Australian citizen, your eligibility is fee help. So AIB is approved to offer fee help to citizens. So you do have just $100,000 worth of a loan that can use in help services. So that is available. And the good thing about that is you're literally paying it as you go. So you're not paying a lump sum.
That's right. You only pay for what you study.
You only pay for what you study. So once your census date is passed, your loan increases by $2,725, and you basically repay that back through the tax system, which is between...
And it's pre-tax.
Pre-tax. So you can, yeah.
And
that's between 4 and 8% your repayments will be, and that's on a sliding scale based on your earnings.
And not that I'm an accountant, however, tax deductions, if you don't mind it, but anyway, disclaimer, we're not accountants.
Yeah.
And so, anyhow, so I hope that helps. I think questions like that, certainly reach back out to your course advisor.
Yeah.
Reach out to them and get them to perhaps send you another info pack or...
And there's information on our website as well. There is a fee help calculator that you can use putting in your income to work out your repayments, whether it be weekly, fortnightly, monthly. So, but yeah, definitely go back to your course advisors. They'll be able to help with any of these questions as well.
Okay, so this is almost time to wrap up, I think.
Yeah,
an hour. So that's a good chat. So look, currently we're recruiting for our July start date, which commences the 5th mid-year start date. So if we go back to before, we're talking about stages again.
Yep.
If you were to start potentially,
yep,
at that point you would have your graduate certificate management completed by Easter.
Yep.
So once you
think about goals,
my head's gone straight to that.
Yep.
So I would be thinking, gee, I'm going to get my graduate certificate done and I'm going to go on a holiday at Easter.
Yep.
That's exactly what would be going through my head.
Yep.
So we are currently accepting applications and really wanting to finalise by next week, because applications do close on the 3rd of June.
Yep.
Which is actually my birthday.
Already?
Yeah. Anyway, but you don't really acknowledge when you get older. But anyhow, so your MBA course advisor will be in touch.
Now, there will be some people out there who've already got an application form.
Yes.
So you'll have a link. So you can either click back on that link, continue to fill in the rest of the information, or there is apply now button on the website, or you may have that in an email as well.
Now I think someone has talked about the next start dates or windows. So we do actually have intakes all year round. So this is not all about you must start now. Like, great if you can and you've got capacity.
Yeah.
Awesome. But if you can't, we've got 6 terms a year.
Yeah.
So we've got end of August. I think the next intake is after that, which is term 5,
Yes.
I believe. So, which is crazy. Time does fly when you're having fun, as they say. But yes, so but we'll be in touch. And
Yeah, I think I'll just add to that as well, just with the start date. Sometimes, you know, people, you know, conversations I had has gone, oh, when's the best time to start? Like, to be honest, me personally, I think I started like October, and again, it wasn't a plan. Yeah, there's no real perfect time to start, I don't feel. Yeah, but I think once you start to learn it, the quicker you get into those routines and build those study habits and lock at that time and things like that. So I think that's just something to be mindful. We do get a lot of questions like, oh, when's the best time to start? To be honest, there is no perfect time to start. It's, you know, that's where you want to get to a certain point and you want to use the MBA as a vehicle, it can definitely do that for you. And yeah, so just wanted to mention that. So
definitely good to. So thank you everybody for attending today. So it's a very happy Friday now, Friday afternoon for most of us here, yes. Most in the east anyway, or central. So sorry guys in Perth, it's still morning. But yeah, so please reach out to your course advisor, email or give us a call. We're more than happy to help. And yes, I think that's great.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, have a great day.
Thank you.